Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Everything Cyber. This would be our 13th episode for the deep dive conversations, and we've got a very special guest joining us for this episode to discuss a bit more on product security leadership. Managing product security within an organization can be a big challenge. You got different issues you're dealing with, problems such as who's going to be owning and remediating the vulnerabilities, how do you integrate product security or security in general within a development lifecycle. You also want to grow your program and mature it as time goes. So how do you take different steps in regards to that? And last but not least, how do you balance security and the business requirements? What's the fine balance between that? So in this episode, we'll deep dive into the different aspects of product security leadership and some of the key points on how leadership can help overcome these challenges. So without further ado, let's get right into the episode. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show, and a special welcome to Jeevan. Very excited to have you on the show, man.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. It's been a while since I've chatted with you all, and always excited to talk more about product security and security in general.
And today we actually have one more special guest, Sebide Sentogo. And you have seen us as a guest speaker in the past episodes, but he is today here joining us as a host.
Thanks for having me today, Kaif and Surya. Yeah, it's a great experience to be on the other side asking the questions, and happy to be part of this platform. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to do a massive injustice trying to give Jeevan an introduction because, oh man, we were looking at his experience and he has a ton. So I'm going to pass it to you, Jeevan, to give you an introduction to yourself to the audience and as well as to share a bit of your product security journey.
I won't consider my experience massive. I'm just a regular guy as well. So I've been on the security side for about a decade now, and before that, about 12, 13 years on the development side. But I think it all started very early on. I've always loved defense in sports, in life. So naturally, when I got into software development, I was curious about how security works and how to fix vulnerabilities. And at one particular company, anytime they had a pen test that happened, before they even had a chance to look at the report, I would take it out of their hands. This is back when we printed things. So I take it out of their hands and I'd actually physically look at it and started remediating all the vulnerabilities. I grew a lot in that particular role, so I ended up having a development team report into me. And then I had less time, so I just taught them how to fix vulnerabilities. Then had a couple more development teams report into me. So I'm like, okay, it might be just easier if I teach all of R&D how to think about security and how to remediate security vulnerabilities. And then after that, we hired a very sharp VP of security. And he found out that I was the main security person within the org, and he recruited me into his org as a security architect. And everything changed. Everything changed that first day that I started there. And I don't know, the grass was greener, flowers smelled better. Security was a lot more fun. Development was great, but software security was so much more fun. So definitely started building out the product security program, but also just the security program at that particular company. Went to another company, rebuilt their security program from scratch as well. Joined another company that had a security program, which was awesome. So looked at ways to actually scale it to that next level. And working at a company called Twilio now, where I'm diving deep and looking at how do we scale a program to several thousand engineers, and what are some of the challenges at a company like that as well. So a lot of startups along the way, enterprise, but it's security, so it's always so much fun.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Jeevan. I think what stood out to me, and it's sort of in tune with the episode as well, is the arrival of a very seasoned leader and how much of an impact they have on the not only the organization but the people working on the organization, right? You just mentioned the grass was more greener, the flowers smelled nicer. It's when you have that direction as well as the freedom to actually and empowerment to go and do things that a good leader does.
Yeah, it all for me, it always starts with my mentors and the folks that I work with. So been very lucky in all of my security roles that I've worked with amazing managers, CISOs, head of securities, where you're right, they give you the autonomy, they empower you to do the right thing. And when you have that space, you want to think a lot deeper. You want to see how you can make a security feature work better. Or and being on the development side for over a decade, I really just want to make sure that my DX and my DevX developer experience is top notch. If you make it really easy for engineers to do the right thing, they're going to do the right thing. Developers have a lot of empathy for folks that are in our position. They know that we're trying to do the best job with limited resources, and they themselves want to push out high quality software. So it's really working closely with them and empowering them to do the right things. It makes all of it a great experience for everyone there.
Picking up leadership traits from that segment, putting trust and empowering people. That's one of the, I think, signs of a great leader, because we don't want to be acting as a gatekeeper, instead unblocking people to make those decisions. And also, we don't want to just trust them blindly. At the same time, we want to surface up the appropriate risks and ensure that they have all the information to make a valid decision, and at that point trust them to make that right decision. So it's our job to make sure all the right information, which is risk in this case, gets bubbled up to the right people, trust them to unblock themselves and go ahead and take action, which I think it's awesome if more people would do that.
Yeah, trust but verify. We do have great leaders within Twilio itself, but we also need to give them the ability to take their foot off the gas. There are some quarters where they have to be heads down and really focusing on new functionality. AI, maybe. I think AI is a hot thing these days. Everyone wants to focus on that. We want to give them that ability to. We'll partner with them early, just talk about some of the boundaries that we have, but we also want to give them space to do what they do, and then we can put the foot on the gas on security, and then really focus on locking things down as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to the last point, and that is basically like it usually security teams end up working as silos that try to collaborate with other teams, and by enabling other teams to perform their tasks with responsibilities, it just makes the flow across security throughout the organization much easier and just transparent in general.
And we talked a little bit about leadership, and that's one of the things that is something that I look for strong leaders. So I do look at that from a way that I want CISOs as well as other directors of engineering. We got to break down our internal silos. For one point, engineering doesn't have any visibility into the various security teams, or they have very little visibility. So when they ask a question, they're asking all of us to provide input. On the flip side, we need to really reduce our silos, because we should be focusing on the highest risk items. So if cloud security is really good at their job, does it make a lot of sense for cloud security to continue doing cloud security things, or should they help with the product security or enterprise security? We really need to stop thinking of ourselves as different types, cloud security, product security. We're security engineers ultimately. And what we need to do is look at the biggest risks within the organization and find out how we can collaborate to drive down those risks in themselves. From a company aspect, that's fantastic if we're burning down the great risks. But also on the individual aspect, they're getting to cross collaborate with other folks within security. They're going to gain new skills. They're going to have to learn how to communicate with others. It's going to define and help them build up their own careers. And when they grow, they become managers or directors. they will better understand how to roll out their programs or what a strong program will look like. So there are a lot of great reasons for reducing silos in general and making sure that we collaborate and really focus on the top risks within organizations.
What does strong leadership in product security look like, in your opinion?
That's a great question. I don't think it's any different from just strong leadership in general. So I've been in organizations where I think I'm going to go back to what I look for when I hire individuals. I look to work for as well as hire empathetic individuals. So when I work for a leader that has empathy, that understands both, they wear the customer's shoes, so they will work really well with engineering, they understand where they come from, and they empathize, and they want to really build out strong, experienced programs. I know I'm usually in a good place. Having said that, we also need just strong leaders themselves that do have non-negotiables, things that they will not allow and be very firm with, and maybe even get angry with. I know that we're mostly from the Commonwealth here, and our level of anger is quite different from non-Commonwealth countries. So when we say flip a table, we'll just be sad or something like that. Yeah, like when I look at strong leadership, it is first having that empathy and really empathizing with the people within their organization, but also with our partner organizations. I also look for leadership that has a vision. There's no purpose of rowing in 10 directions at once. You're not going to go anywhere. You want a leader that knows where they're going and being able to get everyone to row in the same direction. And that's a challenge. That's a challenge in itself because everyone has their own opinions, and that's okay to have your own opinions. It's also okay to disagree with leadership, but you want to be able to voice that disagreement in a healthy way. So, if you have psychological safety, if you have that venue, that opportunity to voice your displeasure and have those good conversations, you're going to get to the right place in general. So I want to make sure there's empathy. I want to make sure that there's vision. And then I want to make sure that we see where the ending is, the end line. So that's part of the vision, but I also want it to be concrete in itself. So they will map out actually what are we going to do for the next quarter? What are we going to do for the next 3 quarters? What's our 3-year vision? So if they have something concrete, where if you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, you'll start working faster to get to that end of the tunnel. And I want to make sure that our leaders or even the individuals on our team have that. I always have a bunch of philosophies in general that I share. I've taken over some teams and I approach things a little bit differently. I love failing fast. I want people to be ambitious with their goals. I don't want you to try hitting 100% of your goals. That means you weren't ambitious enough. I want us to try to hit home runs. And with that means if we're ambitious, we're going to fail. And it's okay to fail. It's not okay to fail after 6 months. I would love to fail after 2 weeks or so and really dive deep and understand that this will not work. But it is okay to fail. I want all of us to there's a great African proverb where if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And I want to build the culture of that in general. So, and part of it is that you want to build a team where it's easy to team up with the right other individuals on the team and learn and grow that way. But you also want to build a team so that if anyone were to leave, it's okay for them to leave. There's someone else that can step in and just take over. The documentation is there, the program maturity is there. It's very easy to do that. And the last topic, last part of this I love answering is that a lot of people internally and externally say, hey, would you be concerned if this individual left your team? And like one of my superstars. And like, that's the best possible outcome for me. Hoping my ProdSec team is not listening. I'm just kidding. No, it is the best possible outcome because that means that they've outgrown me and my team. And if they've outgrown me and my team, either they'll grow into a bigger role internally or a bigger role externally, that's exactly what I want for my team members. That means you're way bigger than me. You shouldn't be here. I don't want to hold down your growth. I want you to go somewhere and make a bigger difference there. Those are some of the things that I'm never worried that if someone is going to poach people off my team, that's a good outcome for me because I know that they will go and do even better elsewhere. So that's what I look for a strong leader that's not afraid to. I want to I want to invest fully into my team, but I also want to see them grow and succeed on their own as well.
Thanks so much, mate. There was a lot of gems spread around, and I think the one that really hit me is that quote: "If you want to go fast, if you go alone, if you're gonna go far, you have to go together." Oftentimes, we do want to be that superstars and make everything happen in the team or in the org, but that can quickly lead to burnout, and that can quickly lead to roadblocks because you need to raise everyone together as an org in terms of maturity. And we talked about that from operational and scaled, right? And
It
yeah,
might even also build animosity within the team itself. Like if you hire individuals that don't have empathy or have egos, they don't want to bring other people along. They want to
mm,
take this journey. They want to have all of the praise of themselves. And that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that want to uplift others. We have
mm,
more junior people on our team. They'll uplift them, or even more senior people. Like it doesn't matter if you are an intermediate or a staff level. You can learn from anyone. And I always tell folks on my team, listen, I make hundreds of mistakes every single day. I make it in front of them, and it's okay. Like we're all learning. We're all on this learning journey together. So it's really important that we bring in those people that have the empathy, that are willing to help everyone out. I want to share the celebrations with everyone as well.
Thanks for that, Jeevan. To me, what stood out to me was you mentioning that giving people in your team the space to grow and possibly even outgrow your team. And I strongly believe that if people outgrow and also go on to do greater things, that's a testament to someone's leadership and coaching ability. And a lot of times when you're making decisions in your career, not only looking at remuneration opportunity, but you look at who are the people in the organization I want to work for. So that is definitely found a strong signal if you see that out of this organization that people have gone on to do greater things. I wanted to ask you a question. Do you have any parting advice for people in the security industry who want to aspire for leadership roles like yourself, or who are on this journey, like let's say at a mid-career level, and they're like, well, now I'm ready to step into this either staff level or director role and grow in this capacity? Yeah, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, a great question in itself. Like, you don't need to be a director to be a leader. I just want to make sure that we make that clear. Anyone within the team can be a leader. I've had what we call L2s, intermediate folks on our team that have delivered things that were beyond my wildest dreams at very, very difficult situations. And they were leaders. They knew they had a vision, they implemented it,
Yeah.
and they were able to really help us paint a better product security story. So um, leadership comes from any sort of individual themselves. But there are some skills that I would look for folks to be leaders. And the most important is those soft skills themselves. We need to have technical skills to be security professionals, but those that have the strongest soft skills end up making bigger impacts, either through having the right skills to reduce risk, so convincing engineering leadership to make the right decisions, or building up mentoring folks and being able to multiply their contributions by training all of the more junior folks to be able to deliver more, be more efficient, think bigger in general. So I really will challenge those folks listening here that really focus on your communication skills, most importantly. Definitely focus on the empathy side of things, really understand how and what people are going through, and make sure that you have a vision for what good looks like. you can do it at your role today. You don't have to go anywhere to do it. But if you do have the opportunity, I'm always on LinkedIn. I have way too many strong opinions that I comment on other people's posts. But don't look for people like me. Look for people that are very nice and have a lot of empathy. Find out who are the leaders that you look up to within LinkedIn and make sure that you know when they have opportunities available. Feel free to actually reach out to them beforehand. Like most of these empathetic leaders will follow up with you. They may even jump on a 15-minute conversation to have with you. Keep those folks in mind because when they do have opportunities, they will reach out to you. And this has happened to me. I've hired really great individuals through because of LinkedIn. I'll post something or a comment on something. They'll reach out. I will talk to them, and then we have a continued conversation. And when I have a role open, they'll apply. And I have at least a couple, three individuals on my team because of that particular situation. So if you want to be a leader, understand what good leadership looks like, what good leadership looks like to you, and then try mimicking it. You don't have to be a manager or a director to be a leader. You can mimic those qualities as an intermediate or senior staff, or even a junior individual. You can start mimicking those now, and then you'll refine and hone those skills. And then you'll be at one point when you're in the right place at the right time, you'll be able to take over those leadership roles yourself.
I'll say, yeah, definitely thanks for Jeevan. And I can also testify to that I've reached out to Jeevan over LinkedIn. Actually, this is how we made that connection. And I've also taken up the offer to have officers with him. So that's definitely it's one of the ways that I've achieved and done so many things just through LinkedIn and reaching out. So I definitely resonate with that.
I was gonna say the
Sorry.
industry is small,
Yeah.
and overall, security is hard. Security is hard everywhere, and we're very empathetic
Yes.
to other folks. And that's the difference I've seen with security and other industries that we actually want to help each other out, and we all want to make software safe for all of our companies. So, like, if I see that you're doing something great at your company, I will pick your mind and see how I can do it at my company, and people are more than willing to share as well.
Okay, so the one thing that stood out to me was when you talked about that shift from development to security, and just when you have that opportunity to realize this is your path or these are things that clicked for you. That's definitely something I've experienced a couple of times in my career. The one thing I'd like us to talk more about is you talked about doing the right thing and empowering the developers, and something you have been vocal about is democratizing security. So could you maybe expound on that? What do you mean by democratizing security and how that journey has been for you and your team so far?
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent for democratizing security. In a lot of organizations, I see that the security decisions are made by security alone. And I don't know if we're even qualified in a lot of these situations to make the full security decision. And what I really like to do is I like to empower our engineering counterparts and work really closely with them to determine what is the optimal outcome. We don't have to agree. We can disagree with them, and we can have that healthy debate on what is the right thing. But I want to have that conversation. And a great example of that would be I've seen that a lot of companies, security teams would purchase tooling without even onboarding or having developer development in that room. SaaS is a great example for that. And it is very frictionful having a SaaS tool that actually puts blockers as part of the process. So when you go and you want to procure a tool, bring in development as a part of the process. Make sure that you understand their requirements. That they are actual stakeholders. They are actually going to do the heavy lifting when it comes to actual remediation. You need them to be there. You need them to be vocal about what is good, what is bad, and you want to make the ultimate decision with them. I know that I just talked about a particular tool, but that's for all of the security decisions. You want to be able to partner with your engineering leaders, engineering individuals, ICs, so that you're making the optimal decisions. Security cannot be centralized. Security decisions have to be done not in a black box. It should be done in conjunction with the folks that you're partnering with. So that's a lot on the decision making, but I do believe in a bunch of other different areas of democratizing. We've also democratized the threat modeling process. We also democratized the vulnerability management process, and then the decision making itself. So with respect to threat modeling, this was early on during the pandemic. We came up with a program in February 2020 where we're gonna have engineers be a part of the threat modeling process. And this was an experiment. We didn't know if it was going to go well or if it was going to go poorly. But we thought that we have a lot of really smart engineers, and we think that we as security professionals, we're spending a lot of time on this manual task. Is there a way for us to spread the load and be able to ideally spend time on the more risky threat models and reduce the time on the less risky threat models themselves? So we came up with the program. I tested out on some beta teams, had to iterate on the training material. I got a lot of great, again, partnering with the stakeholders gets you to that right place sooner. So partnered with the development team, iterated on the training, and then in the next 2 quarters, we trained about 80% of the engineering organization. And what I learned after that is that engineering is way better at threat modeling than security is. And you're going to say, how is that? How can folks that barely have an experience into security can do it better than security folks? Well, those folks may not have as much experience into security, but they sure as hell have a lot of experience on their code base, and security doesn't. So it was literally the very first threat model I did with our engineering partners right after I did the trainings, that we went in, me and I had a principal security engineer on the cloud security side. We went into the meeting. They were very seasoned individuals. They'd done a lot of software development. They understood security. Now that we trained them on threat modeling, they knew exactly where to look. So as part of that threat modeling engagement, me and that principal security engineer provided zero value to that meeting. They found all of the critical and high vulnerabilities, and we weren't able to discover anything else beyond that. So it had one part where I was kind of shocked in a good way that they were doing it. Also in other way where I'm like, did I just automate myself out of a job? That didn't happen. I ended up, there are a lot of folks that needed a lot more coaching when it came to threat modeling. But it was great because now our conversations with engineering was way deeper and we found vulnerabilities that I would never have pre-threat modeling training. So democratizing that process, enabling engineers to do the threat models that are not as risky, maybe your P2, P3 type of threat models, allowed us to dive deeper in the riskier areas, and it had eyes on a lot more part of our features itself. So definitely that was a great process for us that it paid quite a bit of dividends.
Something I wanted to touch on more, what was your experience driving that change and also communicating that to the engineers? Were they open? Was there pushback? Was this foreign to them? What was that experience like saying, we want to democratize threat modeling, for example?
We didn't start the conversation with, we're going to make you do more work. What we did say was, how I try to sell it to them is like, imagine not waiting for security. You all can develop faster. Now that we have eyes everywhere, we're threat modeling all of our features, you're going to have less vulnerabilities. If you have less vulnerabilities, that means you're doing less security work. So it's going to be a win-win-win. Yes. Less security work, more time for feature development, and less critical and high vulnerabilities in our system. And the cost of it would be that it's going to cost us 5 hours of training time, which we'll do it over 6 weeks, because I didn't want to overburden them with the training themselves. And in addition, each one of our threat modeling sessions, we're going to be 30 minutes longer. So you have to do the threat modeling anyways. It's going to take a little bit longer for it to take, just because we want to make sure that we're training you during those threat modeling sessions themselves. And they were all for it. We'll see them start moving faster. We were involved with a lot less threat models. So we let them do a lot of the low priority threat models themselves. And security, we spent so much more time on areas that we want to dive much, much deeper on. So the buy-in from leadership and the individual IC parts were great. And the training itself has to be engaging. You can't put them through training that is boring. So I kept the trainings very small. I try to keep between 8 and 12 people because I want people to be comfortable with asking questions. If I'm spending time training you, I want to make sure that you're actually learning things. The first training is an hour and a half. It's got about an hour 15 about a content. We have a lot of leeway because sometimes conversations happen and we want to dive deeper in certain areas so that they can learn a lot more. So all of the trainings were that fashion and it was very engaging. We had group discussions on specific problems. I was also a strict teacher where I would ask random people questions. So everyone was on their toes in general. I had one individual that was DM'd me afterwards and like, you know what? I had to hold in going to the washroom because I wasn't sure if you're going to go. So it was great training in itself. So it was engaged. They wanted to be there.
Yeah.
They learned a lot. And then that translated in actual better engagement as part of our security review process as well.
Thanks for that, Jeevan. Something I also noticed was you have been empowering people who report your people under you to come up with new ideas or new initiatives. And the one that caught our eye was democratizing vulnerability management. Maybe if you could give us an idea of what that means and how you empower this individual to go and say, okay, we want you to drive this, and what it looks like in your organization.
I think that is the single most important security program that I've had in my career. We all been part of organizations where security owns vulnerability management. That means if something goes over SLA, we're the ones that are chasing people. And why is that? It's not our responsibility. The software development, the remediation of it is actually engineering responsibility. It's not like QA has to chase down engineers to fix quality issues. Why is it security has to chase down for fixing security issues? Once we made that switch in our mind that our responsibility is really to let the organization know about risk and the total amount of risk that they own, and it's actually engineering's responsibility to burn down that risk, things work out a lot better then. So we made a shift from making the SLA extension process very, very simple. And we also made it so that the right stakeholders own the SLA extension approval. So what does that mean? Like for P4 and P5s, low and informational, if you have a vulnerability that's coming up to SLA, the engineering manager or product manager, they can extend it, and they can extend it for up to a year. P3s go to the directors, P2s go to the VPs, and P1s, when we initially did it, it was at a company called Segment. It went to the CEO, and when we rolled it out again, we did it at Twilio, and it went to the SVPs, GMs, have you of that. So, and what we noticed is that when there's visibility at the higher levels of vulnerabilities, and their name is going to be on it for the extension, they're a lot more reluctant to provide extensions, or they are on top of it when it comes to vulnerabilities that are assigned to their group. So we saw this happen where a VP was assigned a P2 and it was extended one time. The VP was, they had to extend it one more time, and the VP put a stop to the process and was like, listen, my name is now on it. If anything happens because of this vulnerability, everyone's going to blame me. And I cannot, in good conscience, extend this vulnerability without knowing who is going to fix it what the plan is and what the actual timeline is. We can't continue to keep kicking the can down the road. Everyone was on the same page. They told the VP who's going to fix it, what was the plan, and how long it's going to take. I think they said it was going to be 6 weeks. And a week and a half later, it was already fixed because no one was going to go to that VP again and ask for another extension. So by democratizing this process, we've empowered the leaders in the business to understand their security posture, the security risk that they have. And we will also let them make decisions on how much risk that they want to tolerate. We did have metrics around how much total risk that they were owning. And we've had healthier conversations at the aggregate saying, hey, you own this much risk. You should consider spending the next quarter burning down a lot more risk. But that's the type of conversation that I want to have with the engineering VP or director, rather than going to an IC, a senior engineer, and saying, hey, you didn't fix this. You should fix this. That wasn't productive. It was much more productive at the director, VP, SVP level when we talk about things holistically, what our expectations is for the business. And it's okay. So some BUs were building out new features. It was okay for them to have more risk than other parts that were long-standing functionality, legacy application, where we want them to actually focus and burn down risk and make sure that there is a stable environment for our clients. So democratizing vulnerability management had caused the vulnerabilities to go down by themselves. It wasn't extra input from us to actually burn things down. It was coming internally from engineering because now they are responsible for security.
Sorry, my wheels are turning now because I'm thinking about a VP of engineering and SVP can see themes or bug classes that are prominent in their organization and say, okay, if we focus on eliminating these classes of bugs, then we can actually burn down the risk, and helps them prioritize from a security perspective what would be the kind of activities that would give them the most bang for their buck, so to speak. So it might be a case of, let's have a better way to do secrets management, and then all this risk that we had that was carrying this huge weight is now like brought down to a more manageable level, an acceptable level.
You got it. You had the better conversations. You do a lot better analysis on the risks, the vulnerabilities themselves, and you make a determination. How do we actually build out guardrails or a paved path so we can fully eliminate that particular type of risk? Those are the conversations that we should be having with our partners rather than chasing them down and just whack-a-mole and try, okay, we saw XSS here, let's fix this. Another XSS here, let's fix that. No, we want to have the better conversation where we can actually eliminate full classes of vulnerabilities.
Just going to switch the topic and move more into product security maturity. So I just wanted to get, in your opinion, what are the different levels of project security in a program in terms of maturity in general?
I gave a talk about this at B-Sides Vancouver earlier in the year, and there I've been at very different companies and different stages of maturity themselves. I think the lowest level is like it is very ad hoc security, no security or ad hoc, where either you have a security engineer that is just completely overwhelmed and they're just doing whatever they think is the right thing to do next. Might be a security review, maybe they have to do a pen test. They have all these things that pop up and they don't have a vision for what needs to be done. So that's usually the lowest level. After some time there, I hope that they can grow their team and have a dedicated function for product security. So you may have a few other folks on the product security team, and you have a better defined program in itself. So ProdSec will be responsible for pen testing and bug bounties and some of the threat modeling and rolling out SAST or a lot of the toolings that you have. So it's better defined, but they don't have a vision. So we talked a little bit about remediating a full class of vulnerabilities. They wouldn't think in that fashion. It'd be still very heavy on the operational work and very low on the strategic level. So that's usually what I call a foundational program, something that's better than ad hoc, and they're just building the foundations of what a program is. And I see a lot of companies that are at that foundational stage, and some of the more larger companies or more mature companies, they get to this scaled program where you do think about democratizing a lot of your programs, your threat modeling or your vulnerability management. They're building programs and processes that can stand the test of time. And so the individual that built out that program doesn't have to be at that, either working on that program or even within the company. They built it out so robustly, documentation is there. Anyone within security or engineering can take over that program and they can go on its own. And in addition, it's mature enough that you can actually make data-driven decisions. So if you have operationalized your security tooling program, you're sucking in all that data from your SaaS or your secret scanner. You can look at the data and make the appropriate decision that will help eliminate classes of vulnerability. And then what I think is like the next gen or like things that are more advanced in the skill program is when you've fully automated a lot of these processes. So even within the scaled maturity, there's still a lot of things that need to be done. But say
Yeah.
for SCA, do you really want to generate a ticket for engineering to actually remediate a vulnerability? That does make sense. And the next stage of that would be the automated, where there'll be auto PRs. It'll automatically check in for you. I'm hoping that engineering has the applicable tests that it could capture potential problems with the new library. But that's that next stage of things where you automate and have that next level of maturity. No company is going to be fully scaled or ad hoc. We're all in that same place, but we have different levels of maturity within our program. So we may be very, very good at SCA, but we're ad hoc when it comes to static analysis. So you don't get grouped into one single bucket. We're all in different stages for different levels of maturity for our program. So this is how I sort of envision where it comes to actual programs and just the overall team's maturity. You have ad hoc, you have foundational, then you have scaled, and then you have automated. And that's sort of how I want to make sure that all of our programs sort of grow in itself.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, a lot of companies start in the initial journey on identifying like where do we start in security, like how do we set up a baseline, and that leads them to the part of foundational. And then as companies start to scale, that program does not suit them for their needs, so they start shifting towards a more scaled program, and then hopefully in later stages to an automated program in the end. Coming to this question, like as companies scale, you see them starting to shift towards a scale program. Would you say that all companies should aspire to have a scale program, or would you say that there are certain cases where that should not be the case?
And I always love to answer that with it depends. The typical security answer, it depends. Uh, how I usually want to discuss is this is where you actually, when you think about democratizing your security program, you want to really partner with the leaders in your business. So you want to work really closely with the executive and better understand the risk appetite. And so smaller company that I worked at, maybe 150, 200 engineers, we had a very strong foundational program, and that's all we actually needed. We didn't have too much PHI in our systems. We did have PII, but it wasn't the foundational program we had was fantastic. We didn't really need to do anything better. Whereas I was definitely at a company where we had a lot of PHI, a lot of very sensitive information, but we had a bit of an ad hoc and we we're moving into a foundational area. And I felt that we should have accelerated the program there because that particular company probably could have leveraged a more scaled program, but there were far ways, and the risk appetite was a lot stronger for the business there. They were okay to accept a lot more risk. So it really depends on where the exec are with their mentality around risk and making sure that the security leadership and the executive leadership are on the same page there. Having said that, I really enjoy organizations that are thinking about scaled maturity in itself because the problems there are much more fascinating, and it's a great place for both junior and very senior folks to learn in general. So it's rare in the market where they think about they have scale program. Most of the massive tech companies, maybe some of the crypto stuff, will have to have thoughts, or even healthcare industries have to have thoughts there. Vast majority are probably ad hoc to foundational in itself, and that might be good enough for where they are in their life cycle.
The one thing to note is that even when you go towards a scale program, there are certain sections within your security program that might still be ad hoc or foundational, because your whole stack cannot shift at once towards a scale program. It's an incremental process, and it's an ongoing process of continuous improvement.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And on the flip side, like, there are legacy parts of your ecosystem that are hard to shift. Like, the new frameworks are really, really good. The old ones, the amount of investment that you have to make in order to shift it to a better place might not be worth it, especially if you're building out next generation platforms in itself. So it really is a case by case decision for things in general.
Before I go, Jeevan, is there any information or any events you want us to share with the audience or check out?
That's a great point. We just finished AppSec PNW. We had our first live conference in Portland. We have announced that next year we're going to do it in Vancouver. Hopefully sunny Vancouver, and it's going to be a blast.
Nice.
So I know that there's a massive amount of interest and appetite for another conference. PNW stands for Pacific Northwest. So we'll rotate between Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, and Victoria over time. So next year is in Vancouver. We'll be posting more information soon when we finalize on the dates and the venue and all that. So go to appsecpnw.org for more details.
Cool. I'll make sure the link is in the description. Thank you so much, Jeevan. Man, I was blown away. At this is early morning recording for us in Australia, but I'm now wide awake. I'm actually kicking to go. Let's do it. And so pumped. And I think you had that effect to not just on me, on a lot of people, to get them motivated and get them started. And I think that is a great leadership quality on its own.
I'm just like I'm pumped up for the day now. It's a long day ahead, but I'm so ready to go now.
Thanks everyone, and thank you so much to our audience for sticking around and listening to us so far. And thanks for your support as always. Keen to see you in the next one. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.